Here's a question for you. Can Gala Games get the Mirandus free-to-play model right? Or is it going to be all of us NFT owners playing with ourselves? Let's have a conversation. Welcome to Mirandus Life. I'm Jesse, and this episode is another casual coffee conversation. And I want to talk about free-to-play. This is a big hot topic right now, all throughout the Gala Games Discord. And there's some recent news. We'll be talking a bit about both. So here's the thing. There's been tens of millions of dollars spent on these NFTs now. We've got the land deeds, we've got the buildings, we've got the avatars. Truth is, avatar sales have flattened out. I think what happened is that Gala missed the mark on pricing these avatars. So essentially, what I've observed from past AMAs going all the way back to the early ones with Eric Schiermeier, CEO of Gala Games, is that there's essentially been this progression of NFTs being sold and then going for a higher price within the Gala Games store. Excuse me, the Gala Games store, the OpenSea market. And that caused the team at Gala to say, well, hey, wait a minute, maybe we're pricing these things too low. Now I'm paraphrasing, of course, but the reason I say that is that there was a particular AMA where Eric himself says,
whatever we sell anything for, it seems like it goes for 3 to 10 times that price on OpenSea. Never let me manage to shop ever. Well, I would just raise prices by 10 times.
He would.
That's how I would solve this problem. If things are selling on OpenSea for 10 times what we're offering it for, well, we could always just raise the prices. That certainly would slow things down.
So the point is that I think there's been an escalation of pricing in their pricing model, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot here. Because, and we will get to the free to play, but I want to get this out of the way as it relates to us NFT owners. They shot themselves in the foot because they priced it so high and it's flatlining to begin with, that on these initial releases, these reveals of these avatars, we only made it through 3 before they flatlined. Someone went in there and snatched up the last 100 of release 3 so that we could have the reveal 4. My guess is it was someone on the Gala team sticking it back in a Gala wallet. This time, however, they're not necessarily doing that. There's still about 175 avatars before the entire reveal of 4 is gone. So what does that say about what's going to happen in 5? So unless they have some amazing avatars in there that make a lot of sense, I think people are being tapped out. I think our wallets are being like, hey man, we'd like to know what the utility is of these things before we spend any more money. So that leads us to free to play. Why is free to play important? Well, when you have a world of Mirandus, as it is, with lots of people that owned land, a fixed number, 1,625, 5 of those being citadels, and you have a bunch of people who own buildings. So we have all essentially enrolled into Mirandus for the play to earn model. We're not just buying these NFTs as art pieces that will hang on our wall, right? We're buying these for the utility, the promised utility. Although the promise is very vague because all that we get for each and every NFT that we buy is a 1-sentence description of what it is, what it does, what it hopefully will do. And so for that reason, we have things selling right now on OpenSea for 60 to 70% less than what it sold for in the Gala store. Now, where free-to-play comes in. So if on one end of the spectrum, we have all of the people that have the NFTs. And then on the other end of the spectrum, supposedly we're gonna have some free-to-play, but we have to have free-to-play. And the free-to-play has to be compelling. In other words, these people that show up a year, 2 years after Mirandus launches, they need to feel like, wow, starting today, I can experience the hero's journey. I can go from rags to riches. I can have the experience of starting with nothing, but someday having glory. not necessarily be a king, but someday they might be a great knight. They might be an amazing wizard. They might be something that makes them feel like they were on the hero's journey.
A Thatcher's son? A knight? You might as well try to change the stars.
Can it be done, Father? Can a man change the stars?
Yes, William.
When people start free, that doesn't mean they'll always be free. Okay? And yes, Gala Games does know that the people on this end represent the bulk of money they will make. In fact, John Oswald, the new Gala Games, president of games at Gala Games, was on a friend of mine, actually, Joel Combs' podcast. And on that podcast, he said something, and again, I may get these numbers wrong, but something like 0.2% of all of the gamers represent 50% of the revenue to the gaming company. Okay, well, that's us over there, right? That's the NFT people that are spending tens of millions of dollars buying these NFTs before the game has even been released, right? So we're buying hopeful utility. Well, something has to feed that program. And so if Gala's getting paid from this group here, who's paying this group? Well, this group needs to be paid from the people that are low pay, the micro payments here. So free to play, they get to do that forever and as long as they want. But then you put, and this has got to be compelling, they have to have a reason to free to play. But then over here in the middle, it's those free to play people that say, you know what? Let me spend $10, let me spend $50 on in-game currency to make my in-game life a little bit easier. And what does that do? That stimulates the in-game economy. That stimulates the business owners, the landowners to be able to start making in-game revenue from their businesses. Because otherwise, if we don't have this model, which doesn't feed this model, then all of us over here are simply playing with ourselves. It's like a bunch of investors just swapping money back and forth. There's really nothing coming in new. And the only person that wins, the only people that win, would be Gala, because this is who feeds Gala. Okay? But for the game to be successful, there has to be someone to feed this and someone to feed this. And that begins with the free to play. In most businesses, core values, beliefs roll down from the top. And at the top of Gala Games, we have Eric Schiermeier, the CEO. Now, Eric clearly has a disdain for free to play. If you look at any of his comments in the Discord, you'll see things like free to play hell, rest in peace free to play lameness. So he clearly has a disdain for it. Now I can understand as someone building businesses in the gaming industry. So what I would love to know, I'd love to hear from Eric, since he is at the top of this organization that impacts all of us in this game world. How do you really feel about it? And what is the solution? Perhaps your disdain and your dislike for free to play means that you are thinking through a new model. You've become a visionary and like, I've got it now. I have the best solution for free to play and this is what it looks like. Well, do share that with us. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, well, Jesse, that's what they did in this most recent press release. Well, yes, they did announce that there's going to be 8 homeless shelters. No, I mean 8 sanctuaries. And is that the solution? Well, the jury's still out and we'll see. Hopefully it is, and hopefully it works, because again, the NFT owners are footing the bill for that. So what the announcement was is that there's going to be 8 sanctuaries. This is in a partnership with browser developer Opera. These 8 sanctuaries are going to be auctioned off through OpenSea on July 12th. Now, they've also stated in the blog post, there was a blog post and a press release. In the blog post, they mentioned that there would be more news forthcoming before this auction. But if you read through it, and by the way, I'm taking out all the charity stuff. I love charities and I think charitable contributions are great, but I don't want to muddy the water with the conversation here about free to play. So I'm going to breeze past that for what was shared and talk specifically about the free to play and what these sanctuaries are. Well, first of all, they're a grand sanctuary. And so because they're a grand sanctuary, that means that they're most likely a 20 by 20 building, which means they will need a building plot on somebody's land deed. Now, keep in mind that of all of the non-Citadel land deeds, there's only 35 20 by 20 plots. So there's already epic amounts of competition. I mean, I've got some grand inns, I've got a grand stable. You know, where are we going to place all these things? So there's even more competition now for these 20 by 20 plots. Ideally, I would have loved to have seen this sanctuary be both a combined land deed and a building, because they do talk about within the walls of the sanctuary, or they talk about within the walls of the building itself. So that's likely to be it, a 20 by 20 grand building placed on a building plot. Now, what do these things do? Well, they are said to be a library and a school. It is the first place that as you enter the world of Mirandus, regardless of how you enter and regardless of whether you are eventually going to pay to play and pay to earn and do all those things, it is a place to begin learning. You learn about the basics, you learn about survival. So are they going to sit you down at like a timeshare meeting? But there's going to be some method, and I assume that that method is going to be small micro quests. What else do we know about them? Well, it's going to be a place for food and shelter. So a person that has no place to be in the world, hence why I was referencing it as a homeless shelter, is that they will be able to find food there and they will be able to sleep there based on what was shared. Now, in addition to that, they will be given the basics, basic tools. Now, does that tool mean they're going to get a sword? Does it mean they're going to get a spear, a staff? Are they going to get some basic clothes? Will they get some armor? Will they get some food to travel with, or can they only eat there? We don't know these things, but basically it's a one-stop shop to set up a brand new person, and I believe they're going to have some form of questing, because it sounds as if they're going to be given enough to go and perform some tasks to start work. Maybe that means that each person that comes in the world gets a mining pick. They go work in a mine. Or maybe it means that they're going to get a hatchet and they can go fall trees and chop wood. So we don't know exactly what that means, except that the one key ingredient that is shared about these sanctuaries, and call them monastery sanctuaries, is that a person is going to share a portion of what they earn back with the sanctuary. So that's a business model for the sanctuary, which is great. And that means that a person's going to get rolled in the experience. They will be able to make some in-game revenue. But that in-game revenue is coming from the in-game currency. That still doesn't directly create an inflow of money into the economy. So hopefully, Gala Games has it set up so that there will be a progression from this free-to-play to micropayments that feed the overall economy and businesses and the e-commerce within the world of Mirandus. Okay, so where does that leave us? We've got these sanctuaries, we've got a place for the homeless, the vagrants, as McCarthy said, the peons that don't have 2 coppers to rub together.
If you're coming into the world of Mirandus and you don't have 2 copper between your fingers, you're not going to get a sword. You're not going to go adventuring. You're not going to own a building and craft amazing things. You're going to be a really unbelievably poor peon.
They at least have a place to go now. But here's a question. Rather than create this whole other building that's got to compete for building plots, why didn't you just build this functionality into the existing buildings? I mean, I own a couple of Grand Inns. I put people up in the Grand Inn and feed them for a portion of their earnings out in the world. Why was that opportunity not extended to the people that have already paid for buildings? That seems like it would make sense. Why not have that arrangement where for a small percentage, a weapon shop or a clothier could outfit them again with a little microloan that's paid back on a contract based on the work they do in the world? Why isn't that deed owners or people that own farms can't give them little micro quests that they can perform where they get paid for the work, and that payment obviously goes to pay back things like room and board and for the gear and things that were used to equip them? Why did we not build that into the economy rather than just creating a whole nother building? I don't know. Maybe you have some progression model, but again, these are all things we would like to know. Can you feel that the community is at that end stage of, look, we want more information. We want to understand the utility of what we purchased. And yes, there are the folks out there, and my critics are welcome. that say things like, let them develop games, that's what they do. Let them do the things they do, and let's wait till later. Well, they didn't wait till later to sell us tens of millions of dollars of stuff with promised utility. So regardless of where they are in the development process, it is still worth having a conversation now about what we believe that utility will be. Seems to make sense to me. Another thing that's interesting about the whole free-to-play model is the free-to-play model is critical to the overall success of Mirandus simply because we're being sold things now that have a proposed scarcity, but how do you make something, how does 50,000 become scarce? How does 50,000 of anything become very rare? What was the exact language that was used? Extremely rare. That's what Bitbender said, extremely rare. Well, the only time 50,000 becomes extremely rare is if it's like a ratio of 1 to 1,000 or something like that. But even if it was 1 to 50, that's 2.5 million people in the world of Mirandus. Where are these millions of people going to come from if we don't have a compelling free-to-play model? 1 in 100 would be 5 million, right? So 1 in 1,000, that's what I would call extremely rare. That's 50 million. Where are these 50 million people going to come from if we don't have a compelling free-to-play model that leads to a micropayment that feeds the economy for the people that have already purchased buildings and land deeds with a hoped return on their investment? And speaking of that, can we be real for just one moment? I promise we can go back to pretending after this. But let's be real. When a person buys a land deed and a person buys a building, they spend $25,000 on a majestic forge or weapon shop, or they spend $44,000 in a village. They're not doing that just because they think it's going to be a fun in-game experience, okay? The reason that they're spending that money is because they are buying into the play-to-earn model. The dream is to be able to earn in-game currency, pull it out of the game, and have real-world value. That's the truth. So if that is the truth, and that's why the people are here spending that kind of money, how is that going to work unless you have something feeding this economy? Because if it's just this incestuous cycle of us buying and paying each other as NFT owners, it won't work. You have to have a free-to-play that feeds a micropayment that then stimulates the economy. That's the only way that Mirandus is going to work. And so that's what they propose will happen based on the things they're calling rare. I'll give you another rarity example. Another rarity example is the dragons. I literally thought that there was only going to be 2,000 dragons, and to me that's still not even rare unless you've got a lot of people in the world of Mirandus. Now I understand there's going to be 10,000 of these dragons. How is 10,000 dragon familiars rare?
In 2 years, imagine how many people are going to know about Mirandus. So what we love is we love the idea that you guys that are here now and who love and support us, there might be an incredibly, unbelievably rare dragon familiar that you could get. And I love the idea that there's an unbelievably few number of these in the world. You know, there'll be a lot of owls and rats and cats coming, but what if we said that these dragons are incredibly, incredibly rare?
Unless you have a whole lot of people, you're going to see dragon familiars everywhere. Speaking of dragon familiars, I want to take this to another topic. What exactly are we going to be able to acquire in-game? Because now it's really starting to stack up as the Gala Games business model for Mirandus is buy everything from Gala. And that's great for Gala because when the music stops, they're the only one that's won. They've got a seat. So right now, we buy our buildings, we buy our land deeds, we buy avatars so that we can run around the world. We can buy a familiar. McCarthy has mentioned in the last May 7th AMA that you will find skills in the store and that they will be rare throughout a rare drop throughout the world where you might find a skill.
You can imagine that, you know, we'll have a lot of these in the store that you can get, but also there'll be rare drops out there in the world.
So if that's the case now, I'm buying skills from the Gala store. Do I also buy my weapons and armor in the Gala store to start off? Do I buy trinkets? Do I buy a mount? What don't I buy in the Gala store is my question. How equipped do you have to be to enter the world of Mirandus? With the exemplar avatars, when they are all selling, like the last 10% of them are going to be, the lowest cost one's going to be a human, and that human's going to cost $650. But will that be enough? We have to spend $650 as a baseline avatar to be able to go dungeon diving, because Eric Schiermeyer shared in the Gala Discord that the basic avatars, you know, the people that come in as free to play, and those people, they will not be equipped. Those avatars will not be able to go into a dungeon. So does that mean only exemplar avatars can go into a dungeon? Will they be creating more avatars that are dungeon worthy? So coming into the world, you've spent your $650 on your avatar. Then do you spend another couple $100, $400, $500 on armor and weapons? And then maybe, unless you feel like walking everywhere, or is there going to be a mount sale where they're going to charge us up to $5,000 for some pretty awesome mounts? Or will you be able to buy a basic horse for $500? I don't know, $100? What are these things going to cost? How much will you need? Will a baseline person that really wants to experience all that Mirandus has to offer, will they be shelling out $1,000 to get started? $2,000 to get started? What is that number? These are all things that I would like to know, and I think many others would like to know as well, because it impacts our ability to achieve our goals, what we set out to do in the first place with pay-to-earn model. Everything about how we earn by playing and paying, that whole model depends on all of this. And so that's why we want to know how crafting works. We don't care where you are in the development cycle. Hopefully you've thought this through. If you haven't thought this through, then that's even more concerning. So no matter where you are in the development cycle of the game, there is no rational reason to not be having a conversation with the community about these things, about professions, about how crafting will work. You know, how will magic work? I've seen that magic is supposedly going to be very rare throughout the world. How will these things work? Because this impacts our ability to plan our strategy for what is our investment. Regardless of what you call it, that is an investment over there. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I know some people think I'm being critical, and that's okay. And your comments are welcome too. I'd love to hear from everyone. I don't even mind the trolls. Trolls, you're welcome too. So that is really my casual coffee conversation about things in the world of Mirandus. And yeah, I'd like to hear from you. By the way, if you're new to the channel, there's lots of other great content on here. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want to hear what I'm going to share next. And by the way, this weekend I will be joining 5 others for the first episode of the Mirandus Gentry, which is where we're going to be talking about all this kind of stuff. So you'll be able to post your comments, and we'll pull your comment in, and we'll all have a roundtable about it. So you'll be able to interact with us. That's going to be on Sunday, July 4th, 10 a.m. on the West Coast of the United States, 1 p.m. on the East Coast, and 7 p.m. here in Central Europe. And with that, that concludes my casual coffee conversation. Till the next video, Jesse out.